Kay Carter, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Coos County. And welcome. We're glad to see you here tonight. The moderator has the authority to enforce time limits and also to interrupt proceedings to enforce the ground rules. And our moderator this evening is Crystal Shoji. And Crystal will introduce the candidates and begin.
So the candidates, I'm starting over here on the left with John Uno. And John Uno is a medical doctor specializing in urology with an MD from the University of California, San Francisco. So John, would you like to wave just in case they... All right, John Uno. Troy Cribbins, number 2. Troy Cribbins is the administrator of Pacific Home Health and Hospice and a current chair of the Bay Area Hospital Special District Board of Directors. He holds a doctorate in physical therapy from Eastern Washington University and is a Coos Bay City Councilor.
Can you say what position they're running for?
Position 6 is the current chair.
We're both running for position 6.
Correct.
And we're unarmed.
So finally, there are 2 candidates running for position 6, Troy Cribbins and John Uno. Both are here, and John Uno has posted information about his campaign on vote11.org. 411.org. Vote411.org. Thank you. Okay, then the next candidate, right to my left here, is Kyle Stevens. He is the Director of Coastal and Workforce Development for New Sun Energy and treasurer at the Oregon Center for Nursing. Locally, he has served on the International Port of Coos Bay Board of Commissioners for 4 years, currently as president, and has been on the Budget Committee of the Coos Bay School District and South Coast ESD. Kyle Stevens, what position are you?
Position 5.
Position 5, thank you. Okay, there are 2 candidates for position 5, Renee Nelson and Kyle Stevens. Renee Nelson regrets that she had to be out of town this week, but has posted information about her campaign on vote11. I can't read it.
You'll get it.
It says it right there.
You got 3 more shots, you'll get it.
Vote 411. Got it. Okay, on my right, Brendan Saada. And Brendan studied for a master's degree in nursing from Walden University and holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from George Mason University. He has worked as an emergency trauma RN and a care manager RN. This is position 4. Raise your hand one more time, Brian. Brendan Saada. Okay, and Arlene Roblan is a retired teacher and a school administrator with a master's degree from the University of Oregon. She has extensive experience serving on nonprofit boards. Arlene Roblan and Brandon Saada are the candidates for position 4. Both are here tonight and both have posted further information about their campaigns on vote411. Okay, and then Timothy Lynch is a doctor of public health practitioner and the director of Coos County Public Health. He holds a master's degree in healthcare administration from Colorado State University and is an opioid treatment specialist. There are 4 candidates for position 3. Timothy Lynch, who is here tonight, as well as Simon Alonzo Jr. and Dr. Darren O'Brien, both of whom regret that they were not able to be at the meeting. And Mark Daly, who was going to participate, but then withdrew because it is his anniversary. All the candidates, except for Darren O'Brien, have posted the information on vote411. So you can learn more about them there. Okay, is that everybody? All right. So we will start with the questions. And we ask each candidate to participate in each question. So the first question, this will be for everyone. Why are you running for the Bay Area Hospital Board? And what skills and experience do you bring to this position that will help the board deal with its current dilemmas? So I hope to read that once, but if somebody forgets, it's fine. I'll read it again. So let's start down here on the left with John Uno.
And you'll need to pass the mic in.
I decided to run for the hospital board because I heard the hospital was in trouble. When I retired from urology, the hospital had $150 million in the bank. Now the hospital is $50 million in the red. And they say that they have to lease the hospital to Quorum. Is the only solution we have left. I beg to differ with them. We have experts on hospital turnaround which say we could turn this hospital around and keep the control of the hospital local in the community. And all the profits from the hospital will go to local people, local labor, and local products, if we can. This hospital has been my baby for many years, and I want to keep it viable.
Troy Cribbins.
So the question is, why am I running for the position and what qualifications do I have to help the hospital in this current situation? I'm running for the same reason I ran initially in July of 2021, or was appointed in July of 2021. My professional career, I have the access to see patients in their homes and see the difficulty they have in accessing care. One of the common themes was we have to go somewhere else for care, and I frankly never understood that. I always felt like we should be able to take care of our community here in our hospital. We have a fabulous facility and fabulous staff that work in the hospital. Since I've been on the board in 21, we have worked diligently to maintain the vitality of the hospital. The market has changed. From 2021 to 2025, we suffered the pandemic. We've suffered 40% increases in costs. Meanwhile, our reimbursement rates have only changed 1 to 2%. It doesn't take a business major to understand those two numbers don't match up and they're not sustainable. My experience is I've been in the room from day one. We have talked to experts. We have talked to attorneys. We have talked to hospital financial turnaround experts, finance experts. All of this work has been going on for 2 years. The truth is, healthcare is in a crisis. Costs continue to raise, reimbursements don't. The Oregon Association of Hospitals just recently published that 70% of hospitals in the state alone are either losing money or at a 5% or lower margin, which means that they're critically in trouble and risk of closing. It's not unique to Bay Area Hospital. It's not a management issue. It is a market issue. And it's a fundamental change that needs to occur somewhere along the line in how our providers and hospitals are reimbursed for the care they do in taking care of our patients. The market is telling us that for smaller rural hospitals, it's important to affiliate with a larger system hospital in order to absorb those costs, 30 seconds left, and be able to move into the future, not only staying at the size we're at, but able to grow our hospital and add capital funding. That's why I'm running. I'd like to finish the work we started. We're really close. We all care about this hospital, and we want to see it here for the next 50 years.
Kyle Stevens.
Sure. And so I think why I'm running is probably along those same lines. I was born in this hospital, like most people here. I think that it was something that was our area had that was always something as my folks get older or my kids come along, is something that I think everybody was proud of. I mean, we had a large 125-bed hospital, we had cardiology, we had a cancer center. We had a lot of things, and I think as it slowly started to go through those challenges, sorry, I'm terrible with the microphone. Dr. Moffitt, you know this. I think as you started to hear about those challenges, it became something that I wanted to get involved in. I wanted to help in any way I can. I've always been kind of worked in healthcare adjacent. We ran a healthcare industry partnership, done a ton of work in workforce around healthcare. I've been on the Oregon Center for Nursing's board for 4 or 5 years, been their treasurer. Served on a lot of different boards in town, whether it was CCD or the budget committees or the court. And so I thought that I had some skills, and I think, I don't think anybody thinks this is going to be an easy position or an easy board membership to be a part of, but I think it's something that I want to make sure that we look at every solution we can to keep the lines of service open and make that sure that this hospital is available for everybody in the future.
Okay, Brandon Saada?
Yes, Saada, thank you. I'm not sure I need the mic though. I actually didn't.
You need the mic.
Oh, yeah. I actually didn't voluntarily run into this position thinking that I was the best person for this position. I have been sitting back on the sidelines, just sort of watching. My wife's a doctor, and I get to see all her meetings, and I get to hear all the conversations, and I get to hang out with all the same doctors that everyone here probably has. I was a nurse. I left the field because I didn't feel like I wanted to be a nurse anymore. I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. I wanted to work on the farm, and I was recruited. The very people that my wife works with believe that I was perfectly capable of doing this. I've talked to Dr. Sharma and McAndrew. They all said, you should run. This is your opportunity to get back into healthcare. This is your opportunity to actually make a difference. And I thought about it really long and hard. I did lots of research. I spent hours and hours and hours looking into quorum. I spent hours and hours and hours looking at financial records, the past meeting minutes, and I said, is this really something I want to dig myself into? Is this really something I want to even engage in? This feels like it's already a headache. And halfway through my campaign, I said, no, this is something I want to do. I do believe I can help save this hospital. I do believe that sometimes when you run into a problem, you just need a different perspective. You need to look at it in a different way. When Da Vinci painted, he painted normal. He looked in a mirror and he painted in the reflection of the mirror, and then he took a step back and he looked at the painting from a distance. Sometimes you need new people, sometimes you need new perspectives to find that there is an alternative solution. There is a thing called cognitive dissonance, where you can get stuck into believing what you believe is the solution, but you have to look at alternatives. And the big red flag for me was when the letter of intent was signed, then the public was engaged.
Arlene Roblan.
Hi. Is this on? Can you hear me? Speak.
I don't know if that was.
I am. Can you hear me now? Speak up. Okay. All right.
Can you check
So,
the,
I'm Arlene Roblan, and
is it turned on?
I'm running for this position because, I'll just tell you the story. My husband came home one day from another, can you hear me? It doesn't feel like it.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to check.
So,
Yeah.
he came home from another meeting one day, and he said, there's a hospital board position open, and I know you've been really worried about the Kids Hope Center, of which I've been a board member for 8 years. And I was worried about quorum and what that was going to look like for the Kids Hope Center. So at first I said no. Then I started asking around. I asked the director of the Kids Hope Center, the Coastal Families Relief Nursery. I asked someone who's been a good friend for years and who has tried to get me to be on the board for years, and that's Tom McAndrew. And he said, yes, I think that would be a really good thing for you to do. That would be great. So I have had many positions in town. I've been on up to 9 boards, mostly serving children and education. And I worked in 2 very high poverty schools, one with 99% poverty and one with 83% poverty, with up to 75 homeless children in one of my schools. So I have seen up close and personal what lack of health care does to families. I also served on the Advanced Health Board for a while, and on SCRIPT, which is indicators of community health. And so I think I'm qualified to do this. I know the community really well. I'm solutions-based, and that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Timothy Lynch.
Thank you. The reason why I'm running is as the Doctor of Public Health for the county, I know how important this hospital is to our community. And if this closes or if we remove any services, how large of an impact that is going to have on every single one here. So that is my reason for running. My credentials and background would be 20 years of working in direct healthcare, hospitals, emergency rooms, surgical centers around the country. And I've been able to see what happens when venture capitalists come in and take over a practice. Now, I'm not saying that this deal with Quorum is not a good deal. I know nothing about the deal. All I know is that I want to protect the community and everyone here to get access and to get health care when they need it and to have those doors stay open.
Okay, the second question and the third question are 1.5 minutes. So if I said 2 at the beginning, I was wrong. But you guys are getting used to that, right? Okay, so we're going to start with Troy Cribbins, and then we'll go down to the end and then come back so that we don't have the same person answering the first one each time. So the second question for Troy Cribbins. Why do you support or oppose the Quorum partnership? And if you don't support it, what is your alternative plan?
I do support it. Again, I've been in the room since the beginning. We've looked at a regional solution. It doesn't solve the long-term issues
You want the
of...
mic, Troy?
Thank you, Mo. I will say, though, that's the first time anyone's told me I wasn't talking.
Out, Troy, oh.
So, I've been in the room since the beginning. We have looked at multiple solutions. Our initial look was at tighten our bootstraps up and fix it internally. It's a fundamental problem. That wasn't going to get it. The executive team there made a miraculous turnaround, which frankly is the reason the hospital is still open. We looked at a local system affiliation. It did not solve the long-term issues of the hospital's financial issues. The market is saying affiliation with a large system is the way to maintain your vitality into the long term. We sent out 18 RFPs. We got back 8. It dwindled to 4. We ended up with 2. At the last half hour, one dropped out. Quorum stayed at the table. They continue to work with us. They've continued to work with what the board has requested that we have gotten from what we want from our community, including, most recently, our negotiations have been delayed because we're working on maintaining the nonprofit status of the hospital. And so that takes a little longer. That's why I'm supporting them. They're willing partners, and they want to work with us in maintaining our hospital in this community.
Okay, Kyle Stevens.
All right, I mean, so I think at a fundamental level, I disagree with Quorum or sale, but I think the challenge for anybody that's not in that seat is that we haven't been able to review all the information. So I think without everything being public, it makes it tough, but I think it's easy to have an opinion. You know, and I don't know if it's necessarily the direction it's going right now. I think it's probably, we knew it's been bad. I mean, it's been public knowledge that it's been struggling for some time, and at least to me, it feels like this was something that happened very quickly here. And I think that, you know, until you get in there and see it, you don't know. But I think I come from a place where I would love to make sure every other option was seen. I've talked to some of the folks that were involved in other local options. I've heard from other CEOs at other hospitals in the region and outside the region. But I mean, to the credit of those that are in there, you don't know what you don't know until you got in and see it. But at the same time, this would not be my desired outcome.
Okay, Brandon Saada.
So, when you take Quorum for what it really is, it's not a healthcare system as Mayo Clinic or Kaiser would be. It's a management firm that's owned by 2 Wall Street companies. I may get their names wrong, but it's like Golden something and David Kefner something. Their major stockholders are a Wall Street company. They're in it for profit purposes. They were a spinoff originally. I have a huge document on Quorum. If anyone ever wants to see it, talk to me afterward. They started as a healthcare industry, yes, but they changed. And as they changed and as they got bought out, they diversified, they split, they changed, and they kept morphing into something different. They now operate from what they used to have 38 hospitals down to 12. Of those hospitals, 7 have had to close and they've had to sell the rest of them. They went bankrupt and had to declare bankruptcy because they accumulated too much investment, too many loans. They simply operate in a for-profit concept. They invest, in this situation, they plan on investing $100 million, and we'd have to make $250 million annually per year to pay back a management fee at 5%, $12.5 million a year, over 10 years just to give back that $100 million that they invested in us. If we're struggling now, how are we going to make back that money plus the money we already owe? NIH has already said the mortality rates go up, staffing goes down, and it's worse when private equity is involved in hospitals.
Arlene, Roblan.
Thank you. So, I am neither for quorum nor against quorum. I'm solutions-based. My background as a school administrator and a teacher and a board member has put me in a unique position to learn these skills of listening to any side, gathering facts, and trying my very best to make the decision that is the best decision I can make at the time with the information I have. Now, I have a lot to learn. I just got into this, and I haven't served in a political position before, but I'm very confident that I am a quick learner and that I am there to learn all the facts and to make a good decision. My main goal, like all of our goals, is to keep this hospital open. I've been fortunate enough to go to some quality and safety control meetings, and I'm amazed what our hospital does, and I want to keep that going for the benefit of all the citizens in our community.
Timothy Lynch.
Thank you. I am neither for or against quorum. I don't know that I have enough information to make that decision. I'm not privileged to what that contract would look like. We do know that the market has changed. We do know that the hospital has suffered to a point where it does need a solution. As long as we can make sure that we're not sacrificing care and our ethics in order to make money. So when we do partner with whoever can help support us, they have to make some money. They have to make, it's a business, we get that. But as long as we don't sacrifice the care that we give and the quality and the safety and our ethics of our providers and our nurses and practitioners.
John Uno.
I think quorum would be a very bad idea. Their history is 9 years in existence. They started out with 38 hospitals. They now have 12 hospitals. What makes you think that our fate is going to be any different than the 26 hospitals that closed? Their primary objective is to milk the community of all their financial resources they can, milk the hospital for all they can, and then close the hospital. This is my hospital. This is your hospital. We want to keep it that way. We want to keep local control. And we have hospital turnaround groups that have studied our situation and tell us that we could salvage this hospital. So let's do so. Sorry.
This question starts with John Uno. To those who oppose quorum or have no position, what is your plan to keep the hospital running without quorum?
All right, there's several points. First, I listened to turnaround specialists with a successful history of turning around hospitals and listen to what they have to say. I would keep control of the hospital local and not farm it out to a Wall Street firm, which is sponsored by or owned by a hedge fund. I would, I would return outsourced duties to the hospital, the laundry, billing, which lost a lot of money because they didn't bill the insurance companies on time. The emergency room, which has been outsourced. I would try to return the orthopedic service to the hospital, and I'd return religious duties to the local pastors and not have a hospital paid minister.
The market is clearly telling us, with exceedingly increased costs and stagnation reimbursement, that partnering or affiliation with a large health system is a path forward for many rural hospitals, ours included. If this partnership does not go through, the future looks fairly bleak. The hospital is probably not going to exist in its current state that it is now. It may have to revert to what they classify as a Class B hospital. We would lose our trauma certification and many of the other vital services that we as a community have come to depend on. It may have to revert to a critical access hospital. Again, we have too many beds that are already full on a regular basis for that to be a viable option. As we have talked earlier, the hospital has explored a local regional system and had found that that is not going to be adequate to solve the long-term issues of the hospital. We would be too small, and we would be comprised of multiple agencies or organizations that are already financially struggling. We would also not change the patient population or the age demographics of our community. We have looked at a permanent tax rate, which we are not able to do because of the state's constitution. And we looked at a levy. That exploration resulted in the finding that there wasn't going to be enough resources, and those would be impacted by what we call compression, and that would also impact any overlapping districts in our area, thus putting a burden on the rest of the community and still not being a long-term solution to the problem. The hospital and the management team that is there has already worked on significant financial changes and have made significant progress. But because of the market I initially mentioned, that is not going to be a long-term solution.
Feeling that partnerships probably weren't explored to the fullest, and I think that everybody realizes that Bay Area Hospital is the bigger player in the room, and they also need Bay Area Hospital to exist to be successful. And so I think it's just continuing to kind of work those paths. You know, like I said, I haven't been in there. I don't know, no doubt that you've looked at a lot of options or all the options, but I think that it's got to keep going back to the table and find ways to lean it out a little bit more, keep it profitable, partner where we can, reduce our ability to rely on locums as much, not outsource as many departments, and try to bring it back to what it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's going to take some changes.
Brandon Saada.
You know, the biggest problem with me when I was running for this position was I didn't want to simply oppose quorum without having a solution available. I could never, ever sleep at night if I knew that I didn't let the quorum deal go through, or I started a movement that said we need to save Bay Area Hospital, stop the quorum deal, but then I just stopped right there. I would never have run for this position if I didn't think we had an alternative solution. I know we have an alternative solution. The board's not allowed to engage in what I've been engaging in for the last several weeks, actually the last couple of months, is I've been talking to the other hospitals, I've been talking to the other clinics, I've been going to them one-on-one, and they do believe we have alternative solutions. They, as Kyle has already mentioned, they've never truly been approached about one before. No one's ever thought about creating a unified medical pack, a unified regional healthcare system where we include all 5 hospitals. Just to throw a name out there, Raymond Hino was part of a hospital system in California where he had 5 critical care hospitals create a unified system, and they worked together. What we've never seen, we've never heard in any of the minutes, any of these discussions, have we ever sat down with all of the other CEOs in this town? Has anyone ever heard of anyone even discussing an alternative solution? I know there have been alternative solutions proposed. I know we have alternative solutions, but no one has actually talked about it. The only thing we keep hearing is if we don't do quorum, that's it. How come we're not talking about alternative? Can I get like 20 more seconds?
Arlene Roblan?
Yes, well, I think if quorum is not accepted, the alternatives, I think, are to look at all of the other systems, to look at maybe coming back to the table with some people who were enthusiastic about us to begin with. I'm thinking of Peace Health was there at the table for a while and then pulled away. The fact is that all of the hospitals in the state of Oregon are in very much the same situation we're in. And our board has done a due diligence in finding solutions. We need help. We need a lot of help. And we need somebody that is able to come in and help us financially. I've heard that people ask about a tax base and that kind of thing. Just think how well that goes in our area. I remember several years ago when we tried to get a tax base for roads, and it wouldn't have cost anybody any money at all. It was a motel tax, and we voted it down, even though no one would pay 10 cents. So some of these other solutions they sound good, but we need so much money, and we need somebody to come in and rescue us and help us keep this hospital going. Thanks.
Timothy Lynch?
Thank you, and I'm not for or against quorum, but another solution would be getting the skin in the game, and that is with all the other health systems in this community partnering up and building, because they don't want to see anything go down, and they have your best interest involved, and they still need to survive. And I think if we all gather together as a health community, then we can push through this. And I think that's another place to explore. I know it was discussed. I know that some of the healthcare systems around here had wanted to do that. I don't know how far it got explored, but I think that's the place that we fall back on, because we know that the community and the community health system has our best interest involved, and that's where you would be safe.
Okay, we started with John Uno last time, so we'll start with Troy Cribbins. We're on question number 7. No, we're on question number 8. Do you support taking a tax levy to the voters to support the hospital district? The question is, do you support taking a tax levy to the voters to support the hospital district?
Thank you. That was about idea number 2 initially when we started doing this, was can we reconstitute our tax base? The answer is no, we cannot. Because of Oregon Constitution law, when we took a zero tax base, which we did because we cared about our community, the hospital was doing well, and we knew our community was struggling financially and there was no reason for us to do that. The problem with that was that since we took zero, and the change in the Constitution, we cannot change that again. We would have to dissolve the district, recreate a new district, and issue a new tax base. We looked at running a levy. The problem with a levy was it was only going to generate about $4 million, and of that we'd be subject to what they call compression, because we overlap with several districts around our district. So what happens is, I think you're capped out at $15 a thousand on your property taxes. As soon as you hit that level, then they start taking money away from the other districts that are overlapping that. The end result of that was we were only going to get about $3 million. That wasn't enough to solve our problem long term, and it was going to negatively affect the other districts around us. So we did support it. It wasn't, as we fleshed it out, it wasn't going to solve the hospital's long-term issues.
Kyle Stevens?
Sure. I mean, at a very fundamental level, I think just taking it to a vote in general and letting the population decide is probably the most important thing there. You know, and I don't understand the intricacies of the levy or what's possible with the tax base, but I think just giving people a say in that matter and being let it decide is important.
Brandon Saada?
I mean, I completely agree with Kyle on this one. It really just comes down to we should have a vote for that. I know Troy seems to know a lot about bonds. I know very little, but from the people I've spoken to, there are different kinds of bonds out there. There are different provisions for different kinds of bonds, and I'm sure we can make something work. I'm sure this community can put together some sort of bond, but it does need to come down to a vote. We need to stop being told what we can and cannot do. It still should have come to a vote. They may have done the research, but why didn't they at least let us talk about it more? It seems to just stop at their footsteps, and it doesn't seem to get to the community anymore.
Arlene Roblan?
So, yes, I'd be all for voting if I thought it could pass. And I'd be all for voting if we could make enough money. But the fact is, the money we would make on a tax levy would absolutely not solve the problem and would not keep our hospital open. So I don't think that's a viable solution.
Timothy Lynch?
And I agree with that statement. I think that a levy would negatively impact our community as well as not provide a viable long-term solution. And I think we've been spending so much time now. The years have gone into the analysis. We know the changes are here. We know that we're suffering. We need to make some corrective action for the long term. And that is going to be difficult, growing pains. So I don't necessarily believe that a levy is going to be the best choice.
John Uno?
I don't think we need a levy, we need leadership. For example, the hospital outsources the billing. From what I understand, the hospital lost $60 million or so because the insurance companies won't pay after 6 months, and their bills are over 6 months long. Welfare is the same way. And we just lost all that money because of procrastination, because we outsourced the billing and the billing was chaotic. That's just one example.
Okay, we'll start here with Kyle. Kyle Stevens. So the question is, and this is the last question. If it's not, oh, okay, I thought we were doing 9. Okay, thank you. More time. If changes in services must be decided by the board to balance the budget, what factors would you weigh in deciding where to cut? I'll read it again. If changes in services must be decided by the board to balance the budget, what factors would you weigh in deciding where to cut?
Yeah, I think I'd want feedback from the community. I'd want feedback from the providers. I want feedback from the providers that didn't just work or have access to the hospital, but to other clinics. I think I'd want to look at what was people that were relying on Bay Area coming from like critical access hospitals, number of patients affected, the number of dollars. I think those kind of decisions can't be made lightly, and it can't just be picking a target because of a giant number associated. I think it really has to think of what the impact is, whether that's, helicopter rides or shuttles to Eugene or something else. I mean, somebody's got to be affected, so I think you want to make sure you got that right.
Brandon, second.
Yeah, that's such a tough question because you have a minute and a half to think about how a hospital operates, the uniqueness of it. I mean, you've got janitorial staff all the way up to a CEO, and you kind of have to look at, if we're talking services specifically, you'd have to kind of look at what is it exactly that we're offering, what does the community need. But one of the big things you can look at when you're cutting things are, you could look at administrative salaries. When you asked me that question, it reminded me of the dinner party we had with Quorum a while back and the doctors, and I got to speak to one of their chief medical people, Devon, and she was all giddy about the idea of doing this deal and how they do really good at cutting certain things, and that was what she called administrative rot. And I know that our CEO makes well over $600,000, and so if I was going to cut services, it'd probably be somewhere in his salary. I mean, he's gotten several pay raises. The current board said that the reason he got a salary raise is because of cost of living and bonus history. But those are some services that we could cut back on, or some of the administrative costs, because I believe on average, hospitals have more administrators than they have clinical staff in some situations, and they could cost somewhere near 40% of salaries are going towards administrators.
Okay, Arlene.
Here, here.
So that's a tough one to answer without knowing the information. I would look at all the services, what's being offered, what is essential for patients and what isn't essential for patients. And you could look at salaries and so forth. I think that, you need to look at your services. And right now, we are giving some really good services. I think I wouldn't want to cut most of those, but you need to look at everything and see where there's some waste. And sometimes that's really hard to do. We don't go into the hospital with a chainsaw to do that.
Timothy Lynch.
The factors for cutting any services would be, what are the community needs, first and foremost? What is the usage of those services? Where is the data that shows that it's not being utilized? Where is the closest service if we cut it? That should be another one that we look at. And if we are doubling up as a healthcare community and somebody else is providing the same thing that could absorb that small amount that we're going to cut, then I don't think it's a difficulty or a trauma to the community, and that would be okay. But it would really have to be something like that in order to cut it. So as long as the community is served, everybody is getting their needs taken care of, and they're able to do it quickly, effectively, then I am all for it. But if not, then I'm not. And then cut the salaries.
Okay, Mr. Board, under his watch, this last fiscal year, we lost $12 to $14 million. The board decided that he was doing such a great job that he needed an $80,000 raise and a $20,000 bonus. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think if my CEO had that kind of track record, I would give him his walking papers. I think that's just an example. The other thing is, when I was working, the hospital remodeled the administrative offices 3 times, spending untold millions of dollars, but they couldn't give the nurses a raise because the hospital was short of money. You make sense out of that.
The board grapples with this every meeting, every discussion. There's not a single service at that hospital we want to see cut. In fact, our focus is what services can we add? How do we maintain our big city hospital in our geographically isolated, rural, poor community? Not only do our community, our direct community, utilize those services, but we're a regional hub for many of those things. People from Gold Beach, from Reedsport, they come down. We currently work with all of those hospitals. If our financial crisis is not resolved, there will be serious cuts to the hospital. What those are, nobody knows, because nobody wants to make those decisions. What we'll have to do is go back to what our core services are to the community. That means that the emergency department will stay, and then the main units of the hospital. Everything else after that is on the table. We don't want to get there. That is not an outcome that we're wanting. We need to move forward with a partnership to solve our long-term financial issues. As related to salaries, I know in this community that struggles economically, that the administrative salaries are difficult to hear those numbers and understand. But we don't pay our administrative executives, we pay them less than the 50th percentile of executives across the board. If you want to have a discussion about whether that's out of whack or not, we can. But if we are going to hire an executive, those are the numbers we're going to have to pay. Thank you.
Majority.
I think I started that one.
Okay, I think so too. All right, so I have another question here. What types of services might the hospital add or expand in the future to not only address community needs, but also bring in more revenue? What types of services might the hospital add or expand in the future to not only address community needs, but also bring in more revenue?
One of the best ways to know this is to see what we're sending away from the hospital. And one of the things that we need is an upgrade in cardiology. I know the cardiology department could be bigger, it could be stronger, we could be sending less patients out because heart is, time is heart. Sorry, it's been a while since I was in the ER. We could be upgrading our pharmaceuticals. We could have a 24-hour pharmacy within the hospital. We could be upgrading urology. There's a lot of things we could be upgrading in terms of services, but really you have to look at what the town needs and what it is that we're sending away. I know, for example, I keep saying cardiology because that's the big money maker, and a lot of people need cardiology, and we do send a lot of patients out for cardiology. And I mean, I've talked to people before, and you could get a return on investment with a small bond measure. Going back to the tax levy, you could take an OK bond and inject $6 million into the hospital, upgrade cardiology, and within 3 to 5 years, you could get a return on your investment, pay back the bond, and you could be making tens of millions of dollars in cardiology, and all that was being sent out, outsourced. We have the ability to upgrade our laundry department. We could be doing laundry. We could be diversitizing our hospital. We could use it as an economic engine. We don't have to treat only healthcare. We could be a little smarter with how we run businesses. We could use the hallways to put up art. I mean, there's a lot of options.
I agree with what Brandon's saying about the cardiac care. We need to have more cardiac care staying here. Right now it goes to OSU or it goes to Eugene. And actually one of the places it also goes is McKenzie-Willamette. We could bring back the MOMS program. We could bring back our orthopedic care and surgeries. That would be really wonderful, and that would be a bonus for all of us. So, yeah, I think we need to expand services, and we need to expand services to senior citizens and to children and all of that. It would be a great thing to have a state-of-the-art hospital in all ways.
And I agree that expanding to meet the needs of our community, that's the number one thing. I agree that also looking at what we're sending out to other areas. If we have individuals here, why are we sending out the financials to other areas that aren't putting back into our community? I agree in also building a more robust orthopedic and complex orthopedic group. We do have a very large aging community here that could utilize that, as well as maybe even building a more robust teaching hospital that would give us an opportunity to maintain, as well as maybe take some of the burden off financially.
John?
I think the major service we need to expand is orthopedics. We need to talk to the orthopedists and see what they need and see what they agree to come back to our hospital, because orthopedics is a huge money maker. Urology, there's a shortage throughout the country of urologists, so good luck.
John makes a good point, and frankly, many of our specialists a lot of these expansions we want to do are limited by our ability to recruit and retain those specialists. I will tell you that first on the table is expanding cardiology to increase a second cath lab. We have one now. The equipment in there is about at its age span. If we get a capital infusion with this partnership, that is goal number one, is to build another cath lab and then refit the other cath lab. Our community has an older population, greater than most of the state. We have higher incidence of diabetes. We have higher incidence of heart disease. We have higher incidence of cancer than the rest of the state. Fortifying our oncology department is important. Bringing back orthopedics is another huge one. During the pandemic, many of those specialty services couldn't operate in the hospital. They began to open up their own surgery centers. We need to figure out a way to get those back to improve elective surgeries into the hospital. Step one is to improve the cardiology lab. Step two is to work on orthopedics.
So I think mine would be kind of along those same lines, which is repairing those relationships and getting back to the service level we had before. Because I do think some of those services went other places. Some of that had to do with interpersonal relationships with leadership, and I think some of that had to do with business decisions. But cardiology should be happening there, orthopedic surgery should be happening there. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows anybody that's gone through oncology here locally or started here and finished somewhere else, but you know, I think if we started raising hands, everybody probably knows somebody that's had a bad experience in one of these departments locally and would love to see it better, and that's where I would like to see it get back to.
Okay, we'll start this question with Arlene Roblan. The question is, what is your vision to prevent Bay Area Hospital from becoming a feeder hospital to those in Eugene and Portland and maintain health care services at BAH? What is your vision to prevent BAH from becoming a feeder hospital and to maintain health care services at BAH?
So, if I'm hearing that right, it sounds like there's a fear that if we got somebody to come in and help us out, if it was quorum, that we would be sending people to Eugene or Portland and not have any help here. I'm not sure about the question. Is that how am I hearing it right or not?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So, if, from what I understand, if we were helped out with quorum and we got the money so we could stay open, that we would be more of an independent nonprofit hospital, and we would not be sending people to be feeders to Mackenzie Willamette or OHU and that sort of thing, that we would have our hospital running as it is now and serving the people in this community. And as my person to the right here, I think it would serve community needs. I don't think that we're going to be saying go to this other hospital and feeding into that.
And I agree. I think having robust service here that can serve our community as a whole is the way that we can keep from sending people out for services. I think it's better for the community. I think it's better for the patients to be served here by individuals that are living here and they're close to home and they're close to follow-up as well. I think that is also a barrier. So I think that if we can build these services back and take care of our community, then we don't have to send that out. And as far as how do we keep that going, I think retention is going to be number one. How do we keep our staff, our nurses, our doctors? We need to make sure that we take care of them. We live in an absolutely beautiful community, and then we need to be able to bring them here to show how amazing it is and support them. Financially, we have difficulty with housing. I know I relocated here and was in an Airbnb for like 5 months. So I understand the struggles that are there as well, and we need to overcome these barriers to make it more attractive to keep and retain our staff.
John?
What?
What was the question?
What is your vision to protect BAH from becoming a feeder hospital to those in Eugene and Portland, or to maintain healthcare services at BAH?
Okay, when I was practicing urology here, there was 3 urologists, Dr. Kent Collins, myself, and Dr. Montran, John Montran. I can tell you, no urology went to Eugene. We did everything here. I did cystectomies here, I did bypasses here, I did everything. Everything, radical prostatectomies, you name it, I did it. And Blue Cross came down and surveyed my practice. And because I was charging so much to them. And they said, after 3 months of going through my records, your problem is you have a 2.5-man practice which you're doing yourself, which I did. Nothing went to Eugene.
The hospital in our partnership with Quorum has no intention of becoming a feeder hospital. Of note, today, we have working relationships with Oregon Health Sciences University. We have working relationships with Peace Health. We have working relationships with McKinsey & Willamette. And more locally and regionally, we have relationships with Lower Umpqua Hospital, Coquille Valley Hospital, Bandon, Southern Coos Community Hospital, as well as Curry General. That's not going to change. It is vital for us to maintain our services here, build our strength here, and essentially it's what I said at the get-go. It's why I got on the board, was seeing that we had patients, specifically be a home health patient, was economically challenged, had a procedure, needed care, and was being scheduled for 3 times a week to go to Eugene for 3 different practitioners. And it just didn't make any sense to me. This person can't make that trip to begin with, and now they're being asked to make 3 separate trips for 3 separate specialists. The solution to that is to rebuild our hospital, get capital infusion, improve those specialty services so our community can stay here and get those services.
I would probably just say the same. I think it's getting back to having those services offered there, because there's no, we're in the financial situation we are because we are feeding some of these services out. I think everybody probably knows somebody that's had a hip done at Slocum or a knee replaced somewhere else in Eugene or traveled for some other service. So it's how to get those back happening in the building. And that's where the hospital makes its money, having services happen there and those beds full for multiple day stays. And so every time we stabilize somebody and ship them somewhere else for a multi-day stay, that's another hospital profit.
Actually, so far has been my favorite question, because this is something I could probably lecture on an hour's worth. A vision is something that you want to look to the moon and you hit the stars on your way up. If we could create a unified medical pack where all of the hospitals in this area in 5 or 10 years from now, we're so unified that a hospital needs a nurse tomorrow, we send one over there from Bay Area Hospital. We need some laundry done, we could fix up our boiler system and start outsourcing all our laundry and having to get it shipped from Eugene. We could be paying local people to do the cleaning. We could be offering those laundry services to Bandon, to Coquille, and we become self-reliant. We could create a healthcare model just like other states and cities have done. They've created systems locally where everyone in the area benefits from each other. We help each other, we fill each other's gaps. I absolutely love the idea of using SWOC, a sister special entity, because as a reminder, we are a special entity hospital. We're more than just a hospital, we're the economic engine. If we could buy our food from our cattle here, selling meat in our hospital, we could open restaurants in our hospital, we could do housing around the hospital, like right outside the parking lot, just build some houses for people, let them live there temporarily while we find them better houses. This hospital could be an amazing heartbeat of this community, but not if we sell it to somebody else, not if someone else is pulling those profits. When we make those profits, they should be back into our community. When we buy those goods, that money should be going back into our community, not to Eugene, not to any other place.
Did everybody answer that question?
Yes.
So I have one more, but I don't know where to start.
I
think
Tim.
Are we done? Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Tim.
Thanks, Francis.
So at this point, this is going to go back to the League of Women Voters, and I would just,
They get to make closing statements.
okay, yeah. One more point. Thank you.
2 minutes or a minute and a half?
Two.
Two, okay, all right. I'll make sure, I'll keep an eye over there, check
We're
that.
generous.
Thank you. So the closing statement is, I believe that I have a strong background in healthcare. I have a strong belief in our community. I am very connected as the Director of Public Health on what is happening here and how important our hospital is to us. And I agree with a lot of the conversation today about how we can keep not only the hospital thriving, but how we can build a stronger community around it and how we can do that together. My primary goal is to follow the mission of the hospital. The first vision in the hospital mission is kindness and support. And we want to stand behind that mission and vision as the directors for the hospital. So I want to make sure that the services are here, everybody in our community has access to these services, and we can continue to build it. That's all I have.
John Uno.
I've been in healthcare a long time, and I'd like to see our hospital prosper, and I'd like to see medical care improve in this community. And if I get on the board, I hope I can do that. I'm against quorum. I think quorum will be essentially liquidating our hospital and closing it.
I've been on the board since July of '21. This is a fundamental change in the healthcare market. This is not going away. These are serious and complicated issues. And at the root of it is the risk of our hospital. We can talk about ideology, we can talk about what we want, what we wish was there, or we can deal with the objective facts that are in front of us. And at the end of the day, what is important to this community is that that hospital remains open and provides the services it does to our community and is able to have capital infusion to expand those services. The board that is on there has been working diligently for 2 years to work on this solution. They continue to work on it daily. We will continue to work on it as we move into the future. It is vitally important that we finish and move this forward for the security of our hospital. I would like to finish the work we've started. I would ask for your support. I'd like your vote, and I'd like to continue to work on this. This hospital is part of our community, and it's part of a linchpin to economic development and infrastructure improvement. It's such a needed, vital asset to our region that we can't do without it. We have a good plan. We're working on that plan. We need to finish that plan so that our hospital can go back to what it does, which is caring for each of us. Thank you.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for organizing this tonight. This is quite the turnout. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a politician, as you probably noticed, but I'm a pretty experienced board member. And I'm willing to put a lot of time into this. I'm going to care about the future of BAH just like everybody else. I can promise I'd be a fresh set of eyes that's willing to look at it and make a change or make a decision, whatever that needs to be. I don't think that just throwing in another company who also needs to make a profit without making additional changes is going to put us in a different outcome. And so we can talk about whether it's quorum or not quorum, but something needs to change. We got into this situation, we're looking for a quick way out, but something needs to be done differently. And I think we need to get some folks in there that are willing to put in the time to do it, and whatever mix that is. Like I said, I'm 4th generation, my kids are 5th, and I need this to be there for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So thank you for coming out tonight.
new leadership is needed. You have to think about this for a moment. We are here today, we're at a moment where we're voting. We're either voting for the old leadership to stay in place, or we're voting for new leadership to come in and find a new vision. If you want to tell me that the crisis is happening right here, right now, then you have to admit that you're the reason for the crisis. You can't have it both ways. You can't take away the accountability of your actions, your decisions, and you're going to tell me that everything that's leading up to this moment is external factors. It's not our fault that the hospital's in crisis. You can't say that and tell me that you're going to fix it at the same time. It's one or the other. Either you're responsible for the way the hospital is now, or you're not responsible. If you're not responsible, then you're not going to fix it either. I want new leadership. I think it's time for a new change. It's time for new people to take this problem on. And I want to use the community to do it. I don't want to tell the community what to do. I don't want to tell you that quorum is what's going to fix this. I want to ask the community what you want, because I'm being voted in. I'm not being appointed in. If you want a change and you want a new vision, then you vote for me, you vote for John, you vote for Kyle, and probably Tim. I mean, based on the people here, because those are new people. Those are new visions. We have new ideas. We are working this from a different angle. They've been working on the same problem for 4 years now, and they're telling you that they're going to be the ones that fix it. And I can't agree to that. It doesn't make sense to me. How could you be responsible for the problem but not be responsible for the problem? It's one or the other.
Well, I am new. So I would like to be part of the solution. And I would like to look at all of the options on the table and look for new options, so that we don't just go along to get along. I have never been like that. I've lived in this community for 53 years. I've served on 9 different boards. I've always spoken my mind, and I will continue to do that. I always will look at the best solution that I can find at the time. I've done very hard things in my career. I've hired and fired people. I have done that on the merit of the circumstance. I've been dedicated to this community, especially the children of this community. And one day we're going to be done with this crisis. I believe that. We're going to be done with this financial crisis. When we're done with it, I want to be there to be a voice for the community and what this hospital needs and what this community needs. We need to expand several things in our hospital. We need to care for our citizens, and that's what I'm there to do. And that's always been my mission and always will be my mission. Thank you. Thanks to Lee for setting this up. Appreciate it very much. And thank you all for coming.
You're up.
And thank you to our moderator, Crystal Shoji. And thank you to all the candidates for your participation. Thank you. You were a great audience.